I'm sure we've all felt it. Games just don't feel the same as they used to. Some would argue that we're just growing up, and though that is probably part of it, the game industry as a whole is kind of on fire right now, but we all know that, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. But we as consumers are tired of it, and I think that games like Peak are really showing a huge shift in the game industry right now. Peak is a relatively small scope game about you and your friends climbing mountains. What's really interesting about this game is the majority of it was made in only 1 month by Landfall and Aggrocrab, and this is absolutely insane when you consider that they've had concurrent player counts over 100,000, and just a little over a week after the game came out, they've estimated 2 million sales. Let's talk about why this game specifically has done so well, and why I think it's so impactful for the future of games. We need to go back in time a little bit to the release of Lethal Company. As you guys know, a little bit over a year ago, this game took the world by storm. It was made by only one developer and essentially sprouted a whole genre of these lethal-like games. Lethal Company was a really good game, but why did it do so well? And I think this boils down to two main things. Those two things being co-op gameplay and a lot of emergent gameplay. I think we're all pretty universally in agreement that there's not like a ton of co-op games out there. I know personally it's very tough to find good co-op games to play with my girlfriend because we like to play a lot more casual games. There's lots of multiplayer PvP games out there, but really for just co-op casual gaming, it is kind of a struggle. But the thing that makes co-op games so different from any other genre is it's not necessarily the game that makes the game. A lot of the times it can be the people that you're playing with that make the game enjoyable. There's been quite a few times where my friends and I will download some completely random low quality game on Steam that has multiplayer, and we will just have an absolute blast. Not so much because of the game, but just because of the time we're spending together. This immediately gave Lethal Company a huge advantage because not only was the game co-op, the more players you had, the more fun it got. And because of its sort of roguelike nature, you didn't have to worry about games like Valheim or Minecraft that had progression systems and getting left behind. Every time you got on, it was a brand new game right from the start. Now, the second thing that I think made Lethal Company take off so much was emergent gameplay. A quick little crash course on game design. Emergent gameplay is when things in the game happen that weren't necessarily intended by the developers. One immediate example that comes to mind that you guys might know is rocket riding in Fortnite. Pretty much if a player jumped on an RPG at the exact right time, they could literally just ride it and it wouldn't explode or anything. And I can almost guarantee that Epic Games did not mean for this to be a possibility, but once the community found out about it and loved it so much, the developers decided to keep it in. And so that's a great example of emergent gameplay. Now, due to its sort of physics-based and chaotic nature, Lethal Company was built around emergent gameplay. And these moments of emergent gameplay made the game feel so refreshing and really enhanced the multiplayer experience because the more people there are, the more likely these emergent gameplay scenarios are gonna happen. After the success of Lethal Company, other game studios followed suit. Two very notable games that kind of use the same strategy that Lethal Company did are Content Warning and Repo. These games I'm specifically calling Lethal-likes because they follow the exact same sort of game structure that Lethal Company does, but they took the co-op and emergent gameplay nature of Lethal Company and essentially build their games around it. Content Warning was pretty much built around the premise that some YouTubers will do literally anything to get clicks. It gave very like 2015 vlog vibes where you and your buddies went down into this sort of monster-infested dungeon with your camera and tried to vlog all of these monsters around there in order to gain views. And Repo was a game where you played as these robots that have to go into these monsters' houses and repossess enough valuables to meet your company's quota. These games had a very physics-based and chaotic nature, which was entirely built around creating emergent gameplay. And this caused these games to absolutely blow up on social media, purely due to the amount of funny clips that people were making. Content Warning even let you export the little vlogs that you made onto your computer, which made the content creation process accessible to literally anyone. You didn't even have to have a recording software downloaded. And blowing up on the internet is without a doubt one of the best things that can happen when you have a product, especially for indie developers because they do not usually have the budget to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising. And also it gets rid of any sort of like sponsored or promoted tag that they're legally required to have on the video if you as the developer are paying someone to play your game. And that tells the viewer that everything that they're seeing is completely genuine. I guarantee when Jake from State Farm became a thing way back when, State Farm sales skyrocketed. And by building a game that relies on co-op and emergent gameplay to make it so easily marketable model as a consumer? Essentially what you're doing is you're making a game all about clip farming and banking your entire marketing strategy on the consumers posting their funny videos and promoting the game for you. They are trying to set up these crazy scenarios. They're trying to make you and your friends cry your eyeballs out laughing. And what's best for the developers is these games are relatively low scope. As I said, Peak was made in a month, and Content Warning was initially released for free on April Fools as a special promotion. And the only reason you would launch your paid game as free is just because you were working on it for fun, and you didn't sink thousands and thousands of dollars into development that you're worried you're not going to get back. I know the first time I played Repo, I started playing it at like 8 p.m. and I had a flight that I had to leave for at 5 a.m. and instead of sleeping, I literally just played Repo up until the flight because I was having that much fun. And so all of this brings us back to Peak. Peak is not a lethal-like, so why am I talking about all these? And quite frankly, the fact that Peak isn't a lethal-like is the entire reason that I think the game industry is kind of shifting. It is taking the two main things that made lethal-like so fun and bringing them to a whole new genre, which is exploration. They've built an entire game around co-op where the more players you have, the better. They've added all sorts of wacky items that promote emergent gameplay, and they put it at a low enough price point that even if you play the game out at probably around 10 or 15 hours, you're still going to feel like you got more than your money's worth. And even though you might not touch the game again for another year or two, if you and your friends are bored one night, you can say, hey, let's all play Peak, and you'll have a few more hours of really fun time together. My prediction is that Peak is going to be one of many games that do this. I think in the next year, we are going to see an explosion of these smaller games based around co-op that promote this emergent gameplay, and I think that's really exciting, and I'm really curious what you guys think about this situation. And speaking of games that are coming out, I'm currently working on a game called Suck It Up. If you guys want to see more about that game and how he took a 48-hour game jam all the way to a Steam demo, be sure to click right here to watch the next video. Anywho, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!